You're not angry because the world is unfair. You're angry because you believe the world should be fair. And that belief, that one toxic belief, is making you miserable every single day. I'm going to show you how to kill that belief before it kills your happiness. Stay with me, because what I'm about to tell you will sound crazy at first. You might even get angry at me. But if you can hear me out for the next 25 minutes, I promise you'll never look at your anger the same way again. Let's get started. Listen, I know you're tired of being angry. You wake up angry. You scroll through your phone and get angry. Someone cuts you off in traffic, angry. Your partner forgets something, angry. Your coworkers don't pull their weight, angry. And you're thinking, of course I'm angry. These people are wrong. They shouldn't act this way. But here's what nobody's told you. Every time you say someone shouldn't be the way they are, you're arguing with reality. And reality always wins. You lose. I spent over 40 years as a psychologist working with people just like you. People who were right about everything, but miserable anyway. And I discovered something radical. Your anger isn't caused by what happens to you. It's caused by your beliefs about what happens to you. Now, you might be thinking, that's ridiculous. If someone treats me badly, of course I should be angry. And that's exactly the belief I'm going to challenge today. See, most anger management tells you to breathe deeply or count to 10. That's like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. I'm going to show you how to remove the bullet, the irrational belief that creates your anger in the first place. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the one word that creates almost all your anger, why your justified anger is actually irrational, how to disagree with reality without suffering, and the simple technique I used with thousands of clients to dissolve chronic rage. This isn't about suppressing your feelings. It's about changing the thoughts that create those feelings. And yes, you can actually do this. I've seen it work thousands of times. But I'm warning you, this is going to challenge everything you believe about anger. You might resist it at first. That's normal. Your ego loves being right and making others wrong. But if you stick with me, you'll walk away with a completely different relationship to frustration, disappointment, and rage. Sound good? Let's dive in. The foundation of most anger is what I call masturbation. Yes, you heard that right. Masturbation, the toxic habit of demanding that reality must be different than it is. When you must on yourself, others, or the world, you create emotional disturbance. Now let me tell you about the 3 major musts. First, I must perform well and be approved by significant others, or else I'm inadequate. Second, other people must treat me fairly and kindly, or else they're damnable. Third, life conditions must be favorable and easy, or else life is unbearable. Pay attention to that second one. That's where most of your anger lives. When you demand that people must be different than they are, you're setting yourself up for constant rage. The person cut you off in traffic. That's reality. Your belief that they must not do that, that's optional. And that's where your anger comes from. Let me show you the difference between preferences and demands. A preference sounds like this. I prefer if people were polite and considerate. A demand sounds like this. People must be polite, and it's terrible when they're not. One leads to disappointment. The other leads to rage. You can want things to be different without demanding they must be different. That's the key distinction most people miss. Here's how demands create suffering. First, you see a should violation. Someone does something they shouldn't have done. Then you make it awful, terrible, catastrophic. Then you conclude the person is worthless or damnable. And then you feel rage, which hurts you more than them. Notice something important here. The other person goes on with their day. You're the one suffering. Your anger punishes you, not them. Let me give you what I call the reality test. If people must not be rude, then why are they rude? If your spouse must remember things, then why do they forget? If the world must be fair, then why isn't it fair? Reality doesn't care about your musts. Reality just is. Your demands don't change reality. They just make you miserable while reality continues being itself. I'll give you an example from my own life. Early in my career, I got so frustrated with clients who didn't follow my advice. I give them homework, brilliant homework if I do say so myself, and they wouldn't do it. And I'd think, they must do what I tell them. I'm the expert. They're paying me. They should listen. And you know what? I made myself absolutely miserable. I was right. They should have done the homework. It would have helped them. But they didn't. and my demand that they didn't change anything except my blood pressure. Here's an analogy I want you to remember. Demanding that traffic must not exist is like standing in the rain demanding it must not be wet. You can stand there all day long screaming at the rain. The rain doesn't care. You just get wet and hoarse. Your musts aren't laws of physics. They're preferences you've promoted to absolute demands. And that promotion is what's killing you. Now, you might be thinking, but Albert, some things really are wrong. Some people really are being unfair. And you're absolutely right. But here's what you're missing. Being right doesn't protect you from suffering. In fact, clinging to being right often creates your suffering. You can acknowledge that something is unfortunate without making it awful and catastrophic. Let me explain what I call the rightness trap. Yes, that person was rude. Yes, that situation was unfair. Yes, you have every right to be angry. But being right doesn't make you happy. I've met thousands of people who were completely right about how they'd been wronged, and they were miserable. Being right is a cold comfort when you're lying awake at 3 in the morning fuming about what someone said to you 3 weeks ago. So let me teach you the difference between unfortunate and awful. Unfortunate means this is bad. I don't like it. I wish it were different. Awful means this is the worst thing possible. I can't stand it. This shouldn't exist. When you make unfortunate things into awful things, you amplify your suffering 100-fold. Yes, it's bad that your coworker didn't pull their weight. But is it awful? Terrible? The end of the world? Or is it just inconvenient and annoying? Now I'm going to teach you something called the ABC model. This is the foundation of everything I'm telling you today. A stands for activating event. B stands for belief. C stands for consequence. Here's an example. A. Your partner forgets your anniversary. B. Your belief is they must remember. This means they don't love me. This is terrible. C. The consequence is rage, hurt, relationship conflict. Most people think it causes C. The event causes the emotion. But that's wrong. B causes C. Your belief about the event causes your emotion. Change B, and C changes automatically. Let me show you how to rewrite the B. The old B is they must remember. It's awful that they forgot. The new B is I prefer they remember, and it's disappointing they forgot, but humans forget things. This doesn't mean they don't love me. It's inconvenient, not catastrophic. Same event, different belief, completely different emotional result. You go from rage to disappointment, from wanting to destroy the relationship to having a productive conversation. I had a client once, a woman who was absolutely right about her husband's thoughtlessness. He forgot birthdays, he didn't help around the house. He was inconsiderate in a dozen ways. And she spent 10 years being right about it, being angry about it, making him wrong about it. And you know what happened? They got divorced. She won the argument. She was right, and she lost her marriage. Now, maybe that marriage needed to end. But she told me later that if she'd known how to handle her anger differently, if she'd known how to prefer things be different without demanding they must be different, maybe they could have worked it out. Being right doesn't win you anything except the satisfaction of being right. And if that satisfaction comes at the cost of your peace, your sleep, your relationships, is it really worth it? Here's another way to think about it. Winning the argument in your head doesn't win you peace. You can replay that conversation 1,000 times. You can prove to yourself over and over that you're right. And at the end of all that mental effort, you're still angry and they still don't care. Okay, so if demanding reality be different creates anger, what's the alternative? Do we just become doormats? Do we just accept everything and never stand up for ourselves? Hell no. Let me show you a better way. You can disagree with people's behavior, set boundaries, and demand change without rating them as worthless humans. This is the key to healthy anger versus destructive rage. Listen carefully to this. Your boss acted like a jerk. That's true. Your boss is a jerk, a worthless human. That's false and harmful. See the difference? When you damn the person instead of disliking their behavior, you create rage. When you separate the person from the behavior, you create firm disagreement without hatred. Big difference. We love to play what I call the rating game. We rate people. Good person, bad person, worthy, worthless. But people are too complex to rate. A person who does bad things can still do good things. Rating people creates black and white thinking that fuels rage. So instead of saying my partner is inconsiderate, try my partner acted inconsiderately in this situation. See the difference? One makes him a defendant in your mental court. The other describes a behavior you can address. This is what I call unconditional other acceptance. Accept that people are fallible humans who will sometimes act badly. This doesn't mean approving of bad behavior. It means accepting reality. People are imperfect, and that won't change. You can think someone's behavior is terrible while accepting they're a complex human doing the best they can with their current level of awareness. This prevents you from turning frustration into fury. Now, let me show you how to set boundaries without rage. The old way sounds like this. You're a terrible person for treating me this way. The new way sounds like this. I don't accept this behavior. Here's what needs to change, or here's what I'll do. You can be firm, clear, and boundaried without making the other person evil. In fact, you'll be more effective because you're not creating defensiveness. I had a client, a man who rated his wife as inconsiderate, selfish, and thoughtless. Every little thing she did wrong confirmed his rating. She left dishes in the sink. She was a slob. She forgot to call. She didn't care about him. He built this whole case against her character. And when I got him to stop rating her, to start seeing her behaviors as separate from her worth as a person, everything changed. He could say, "Honey, I need you to do the dishes," without making it a referendum on her value as a human being. And she could hear him, because he wasn't attacking her. He was addressing a behavior. They saved their marriage by him learning to accept her as an imperfect human instead of demanding she be perfect. Here's the thing. We live in a universe where imperfect people do imperfect things. Accepting this is sanity, not weakness. It's not giving up. It's seeing reality clearly. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This sounds great in theory, Albert, but what do I actually do when someone makes me angry? Let me give you the practical technique I taught to thousands of clients. When you feel angry, stop and ask, what am I demanding right now? Listen for the should, the must, the ought to, the has to. For example, he must not speak to me that way. Most people never catch their demands. They just feel angry and blame the other person. Awareness of your demand is step one. You can't change what you can't see. Once you catch the demand, challenge it. Ask yourself, where's the law of the universe that says this must not happen? Where's the evidence that this person must be different than they are? Is this a preference I'm treating as a demand? When you question your demand, it starts to crack. You realize there is no law saying people must treat you well. You prefer it, sure, but they don't have to. The ripple effects of this are huge. Less anger means better relationships. Better relationships mean more support. More support means better mental health. Better mental health means better decisions. This isn't just about feeling better. It's about creating an entire life that works better. And here's your choice. You can keep demanding the world be different. You can keep suffering when it isn't. Or you can accept reality and work with it instead of against it. The world will keep being the world. The only question is, will you keep suffering about it? Or will you adapt? In my later years, I found so much more peace by practicing what I'm teaching you. I stopped demanding things be easy. I stopped insisting people agree with me. I accepted that life is hard. People are imperfect, and I'm imperfect too. And my life got better. Not easier, better. Here's a principle I want you to remember. Life is hard enough without making it harder with irrational beliefs. Reality will throw enough genuine problems at you. You don't need to create additional suffering by demanding reality be different than it is. You can't control the world, but you can control your thinking about it. And that's not a small thing. That's everything. All right, my friend, we've covered a lot today. Let me wrap this up and send you off with something you can use right now. Here's what we've covered today. Your anger isn't caused by what happens to you. It's caused by your belief that things must be different than they are. That's masturbation, the irrational demand that reality conform to your preferences. You can be completely right about someone's bad behavior and still make yourself miserable by demanding they must not be that way. Being right doesn't protect you from suffering. The solution isn't to suppress anger. It's to dispute the irrational beliefs that create anger. Catch your demands. Challenge them. Replace them with preferences. And yes, This means giving up some ego satisfaction. It means letting go of being right, of revenge fantasies, of the moral high ground. But in exchange, you get peace. You get freedom. You get your life back. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. Changing decades of thinking patterns takes work. But I've seen it work with thousands of people. People who thought they'd be angry forever. People who thought their rage was justified and unchangeable. They learned to think rationally, and their lives transformed. You can do this too. Starting today, the next time you feel anger rising, pause. Ask yourself, what am I demanding? Is this a preference or a demand? Where's the evidence reality must be different? Do that enough times, and you'll notice something shift. The anger will lose its grip. It won't disappear completely. You're human, after all, but it'll stop running your life. Remember, you're not at the mercy of your anger. You're at the mercy of your beliefs. Change your beliefs, and you change everything. Now, if you found this helpful, I've got another video you need to watch next. It's about the other belief that keeps you stuck, the belief that you must be perfect or you're worthless. This belief creates anxiety, depression, and self-hatred. And just like with anger, most people don't even realize they have it. In that video, I'll show you how to spot this belief, why it's completely irrational, and how to replace it with something that actually works. It's going to change how you see yourself and how you treat yourself. Click it now. Your future self will thank you. See you there. Then you replace it. The old belief is he must not be rude. It's awful. The new belief is I strongly prefer he not be rude. And it's unfortunate and inconvenient that he is, but humans act rudely sometimes. I can handle this. Notice the new belief is still honest. You're not pretending to like rudeness. You're just not catastrophizing it or demanding reality be different. Now test the results. How do you feel with the old belief? Enraged, victimized, obsessive. How do you feel with the new belief? Annoyed, disappointed, but functional. The proof is in the pudding. When you dispute your demands, your anger deflates. Not completely, you're still annoyed, but it goes from a 10 to a 3. That's the difference between suffering and coping. Let me tell you about a time I used this myself. I was in a taxi in New York, and the driver was rude, really rude. Cut people off, swore at other drivers, treated me like I was an inconvenience. And I felt that anger rising. He must not treat me this way. This is terrible. Then I caught myself. I literally did this technique in the back of that cab. I thought, where's the law that taxi drivers must be polite? There isn't one. Do I prefer politeness? Absolutely. But is he required to give it to me? Nope. My anger went from about an 8 to about a 2. I was still annoyed. I didn't tip him, but I didn't spend the rest of my day fuming about it. I didn't tell the story to everyone I met. I just let it be what it was, an unpleasant experience with a rude person. A woman I worked with had terrible road rage. I mean terrible. She'd scream, honk, follow people. It was dangerous. And we practiced this disputation technique. Every time someone cut her off, instead of they must not do that, she practiced they shouldn't do that, but they did, and I can handle this. Over and over. And within a few months, her road rage went from dangerous to manageable. She still got annoyed, but she didn't lose her mind anymore. This technique works because it's based on reality. And reality is this. People will do things you don't like. Life will be unfair. Bad things will happen to good people. And demanding it be different won't change any of that. It'll just make you suffer. All right, we're almost there. But there's one more piece to this puzzle. Because even when you understand all this intellectually, there's still a part of you that wants to hold on to anger. Let me tell you why. Your ego gets something out of anger. It makes you feel right, superior, and justified. Letting go of anger means letting go of these ego payoffs. When you're angry, you feel righteous. You're right, they're wrong. You're the victim, they're the villain. This feels good to your ego, even as it makes you miserable. Your ego loves the moral high ground. Anger puts you on a pedestal, but it's a pedestal made of suffering. And then there's the revenge fantasy. When you're angry, you imagine them suffering. You replay scenarios where they apologize. You fantasize about them finally seeing they were wrong. But here's the truth. They're probably not thinking about you at all. They've moved on. You're the one suffering in service of your revenge fantasy. Letting go of anger means giving up the satisfaction of being right. It means accepting that people won't always see your perspective. It means not getting the validation you think you deserve. This is hard. Your ego screams, but I am right. And maybe you are, but would you rather be right or be at peace? You usually can't have both. I'll be honest with you. There were times in my life when I held on to anger because I enjoyed feeling superior. Someone would disagree with me about therapy or psychology, and I'd get indignant. How dare they question me? I'm the expert. And I'd hold on to that anger because it made me feel important. It confirmed that I was right and they were wrong. It fed my ego, but it made me miserable. And it made me less effective as a therapist and as a person. When you stop demanding people see your rightness, you're free. When you stop needing revenge or justice, you're free. When you accept that life is often unfair, you're free. This doesn't mean you don't pursue fairness or justice. It means you don't make your peace contingent on getting it. I worked with a man who had adult children who barely spoke to him. And he was right. They were ungrateful. They didn't appreciate what he'd done for them. They should treat him better. He was absolutely right about all of it. And he was miserable and alone. So I asked him, would you rather be right or have a relationship with your kids? And at first he said both. I should be able to have both. But life doesn't work that way. So he had to choose. And he chose the relationship. He stopped demanding they be grateful. He stopped pointing out their ingratitude. He just accepted them as they were. Imperfect, ungrateful adult children. And you know what? The relationships improved. Not because they suddenly became grateful, but because he stopped making his love conditional on their gratitude. So let's bring this all together. You've learned a lot in the last 20 minutes or so. Now let me give you the key takeaways and what to do next. Living without constant anger means practicing rational thinking every day. It's a skill, not a one-time insight. Every time you feel anger rising, pause. Ask, what's my demand? Dispute it. Where's the evidence this must be different? Replace it. I prefer this thing, but reality is something else, and I can handle it. This gets easier with practice. At first, you'll catch yourself an hour after getting angry, then 10 minutes after, eventually in the moment, and finally, before the anger even fully forms. And you'll still get angry sometimes. You'll still fall into masturbation. That's okay. You're human. Don't demand that you must never get angry. That's just another irrational demand. Accept that you'll stumble. The goal is progress, not perfection.